Today is Hanakah, the beginning of the Festival of Lights for the Jewish faith community, and one which we're going to come to appreciate in the larger Austin community on this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. Stay with us.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Richard Thompson, your host for this edition, and glad to have with us today Rabbi Martin Pasternak, one of the newest clergy in town and new to Congregation Agudas Achim.
That's correct.
Marty, we're just delighted to have you here on the show in Austin, Texas.
Oh, it's a pleasure for me to be here, and thank you for inviting me to chat a little bit with you.
And before we talk about Hanakah, which is our occasion for getting together, tell us a little bit about where you've come from and what brings you here.
Okay. I served a congregation in Westport, Connecticut, Westport is a little almost Rockwellian town on the shore of the Long Island Sound, about 50 miles north of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And I was the first full-time rabbi at a small congregation there that just founded itself about a year or so before I took over the leadership. And I had a chance to participate in the growth and maturity of a congregation from about 90 families to 200 families. And interestingly enough, it was a congregation whose home was not what you would usually expect. We occupied 6,000 square feet of a commercial office building downtown on the second floor above a Baskin-Robbins and a movie theater. So it's just a lesson for all of us that holy space can be created almost anywhere.
I should say. Okay, so you have left that to come to Austin, where you have a holy space that has been dedicated and is well known in this community. Mm-hmm. And what are you finding in your work here in this community so far? I'm enjoying the challenges of what is for me a new congregation, a new community, as well as a much larger congregation also. By the time I left Westport, we had grown to about 200 families. And Congregation Agudas Achim here in Austin, Texas has now, as of this fall and our recently completed membership drive, we're up to just above 470 families. So 2.5 times the number then.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So I'm enjoying getting to know new people and the ways that a larger congregation works.
Well, now, whether you're serving here or when you were serving in Westport or wherever you might have been serving otherwise, every time this time of year comes around, you'd be celebrating Hanukkah.
That's right.
And tell us a little bit about when that occurs. I know it begins today on December the 17th in 1995. It doesn't always begin on that
No,
day
it doesn't.
of the year. How does that determine as to when it begins?
The Jewish calendar year is a lunar year, as opposed to our secular calendar, which is solar calendar. And so that's why sometimes holidays begin early, sometimes they begin late, or what seems to be early or late in the year. The joke is that they never begin on time, always early, always late. But because of the calendars sort of coincide, and whereas in the solar calendar the correction is made once every 4 years with an additional day, the lunar calendar, the correction is made, and this gets complicated, but 9 times in 17 years with the addition of a whole month. So it is usually around this time of the year in the winter that Hanukkah begins, that the Festival of Lights is celebrated by Jews all over the world.
It can begin as early as when and end as late as when?
As early sometimes as the beginning of the month of December, and beginning sometimes as late as the end of the month.
Okay. And from the standpoint of the Christmas season and the Christian year of that time of year. It sometimes gets, I mean, always gets thrown in together one way or another.
That's right. Sometimes Hanukkah is long over by the time Christmas arrives. You know, it's already a week or two gone. And sometimes Christmas and Hanukkah actually coincide with Christmas maybe being right in the middle of the festival, or as this year, Christmas is either the 7th or the 8th day of Hanukkah.
So, tell us about how it all got started originally.
Okay.
Hanukkah.
The origins of the festival of Hanukkah go back to the 2nd century before the Common Era. About the year 163 to 165. It was a time of Roman occupation of ancient Israel. It was a time when the Romans sought to deny the ancient Israelites, the Jews that lived during that time, their religious freedoms. And the ancient Jews rebelled and were victorious. And part of the miracle of the festival that we celebrate is that an untrained group of freedom fighters, led by Judah Maccabee and his father Mattathias, were able to humble the army of the Roman Empire. Better trained, better equipped, more experienced.
I mean, that was like a David and Goliath experience in a sense.
It certainly was.
So they managed to defend their own religious practice and independence by this resistance.
That's right.
What particularly had the Romans done to try to impose another view into the Jewish culture?
They sought to do things like deny Jews the opportunity to teach their tradition to their children. They sought to deny Jews the opportunity to celebrate their festivals, to gather for public worship, and to perform more personal rituals also, such as circumcision and other things that even already by then were part of Judaism for close to 2 millennia, for thousands of years. This was, it could not be tolerated by ancient Israelites.
Yeah, before the show you were telling me that just as kind of add insult to injury, something about slaughtering a pig in the temple.
The temple in Jerusalem, the holiest place of Jewish practice in all of the ancient world. At its center was the cultic ritual of sacrifice, and as some of our viewers today might be aware, Judaism does not allow. There are certain dietary laws that don't allow the consumption of certain foods, including certain animals, for instance, pork products. And so the insult to injury was that on the altar where the sacrifices to the Lord of Israel were offered, the Romans slaughtered a pig, an animal which Jewish tradition forbids Jews to consume. And so that was the ultimate of defilement. It was the ultimate of Roman in-your-face tactics.
Yeah. So that resulted in a resistance movement that was successful. And,
that's right.
And that Hanukkah is a celebration of that. The word Hanukkah literally meaning?
Hanukkah means dedication. And the celebration is actually the rededication of that temple that was defiled. So when the Roman army was successfully chased out of Jerusalem and ancient Israel, the Maccabees and the fighters, they entered the temple and started to clean it up and restore its Judaic purity.
And then not long after that, this practice of having a remembrance of this each year in Jewish homes began.
That's right. Actually, the number of 8 days as the length of the celebration comes from the fact that the first festival that they celebrated in the temple after it was rededicated was a festival that they had been unable to celebrate because of the Roman edicts. And so the festival of Sukkot, the festival of tabernacles, which is celebrated earlier in the year, they celebrated a few months late, but it's an 8-day festival. And so that's one of the, scholars suggest that that's one of the reasons why Hanukkah is 8 days long, is because this festival that hadn't been celebrated was re-celebrated.
Now help us picture in our minds something of this, the way in which the candelabra enter into this, and you know, what happens in a home when it's celebrated.
Okay. The celebration of Hanukkah that we do today, that Jews do all over the world and have for centuries, for thousands of years, is really a home-based celebration in which we, at sundown each evening, we light the Hanukkah lights. And so we have a candelabra. Actually, in Hebrew, it's called a Chanukiah, and you can hear echoes of the word Hanukah in the name of this specific candelabra. It has space for 9 candles, 8 candles for one for each of the days of the festival, and one which is the candle with which the candles are lit each day.
Oh, I see.
So each night an additional candle is lit until at the end, on the 8th night, we light 8 candles. And so this is the light that has of Judaism that was returned to the people of Israel, the light of Judaism that was that the Romans attempted to deny them.
The Festival of Lights.
That's right.
Okay, well, I think that as we have that in our mind's eye, the way this occurs in numerous households around the world, has for centuries, and how it goes back to this origin in the time before Jesus lived, we'll, after we reflect upon that for a moment, think about what differences this is making in the life of families today. And as you come to Austin, I suspect that there's nothing particularly in our experience here that would be different from Westport, Connecticut, and the way that happens.
No, and in everyone's homes, I would expect, though, that there might be some the Chanukiah itself can be decorated almost any ways, and so there are probably some particular Texas ways to decorate a Chanukiah that would be different from up in Connecticut.
Yeah. After I moved to Austin in '86, a Jewish friend here gave me a little plaque that said, "Shalom Y'all," which you've probably seen already too. But every once in a while you get a local variation of your language and your custom, probably. But
sure, I don't think in Connecticut you would find maybe a hand-tooled leather Chanukiah, but down here it's probably a possibility.
Yeah. Well, we're going to explore these possibilities more after we take our break here, and have you folks stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627, because serving Austin means serving you.
Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where today we're talking with Rabbi Marty Pasternak, the rabbi at Agudas Hakim, and we were talking about Hanukkah, its origins and its practice, and let's pick up at that point, Marty, where we're thinking about what difference this makes in the lives of people. As you've experienced it, what difference has it made in your life and those of the congregations you've served?
The biggest difference I think that Hanukkah makes in people's lives is the opportunity for parents to teach their children the central theme of the festival, which is how important it is to have freedom of religion and to have freedom of expression, because that's what the Romans tried to deny our ancestors. The freedom to worship as they chose, the freedom to express their relationship with their God. And so this is an opportunity for us every year, for parents to teach children, for religious leaders to teach their congregations, the importance of religious freedom, and the importance of fighting for it if it is denied to you.
But to that extent, it seems like it'd have a very American implication. I mean, in a nation where freedom of religion is part of our Bill of Rights, and that we tend to take that for granted, and yet, in a way, the Festival of Lights is saying you can't ever take it for granted.
That's right, and as Americans, it's almost, it's easier for us to teach our children because we have the analogy of the founding fathers of this country to point to. People that left Europe, that left religious persecution because it was uncomfortable for them, because they couldn't abide it, and they sought a place where they could express their religion and their faith openly and freely.
Besides the heavier meaning of it, I suspect that what it does is generate a lot of good time, too.
It certainly does, because it's a chance for families to get together. It's a chance for friends to get together. It's also an opportunity for members of the Jewish community to invite their friends who practice other faiths into their homes to celebrate with them, because the ideals behind Hanukkah are ideals that everybody can identify with. And because it's a home-based ritual, it's a very comfortable place to have your friends in, and to teach children that there are different faiths in the world, and that while you don't celebrate somebody else's holiday, you can share with another family of another faith the celebration of their holiday. So actually, what can happen, we were talking earlier about the confluence of Hanukkah and Christmas. So one night you can have your Christian friends over to participate with you, or to share with you the evening of lighting candles and some of the other traditions that are associated with Hanukkah. And the next night, go to their home and see them and be with them as they celebrate the traditions of their traditions of Christmas. So it's an opportunity not only to talk about religious freedom, but also to practice religious tolerance.
I think that the relationship of Jewish festivals, the practicing of that at the same time of year when the Christians are, you know, so busy Christmas shopping and making all this emphasis, that must not always be easy from a Jewish standpoint to have to, you know, especially with your own children.
Sure.
To know distinctively what it means to be Jewish in a Christian context.
Sure, and what do you say to a 5-year-old who you're with at the mall, and your Jewish 5-year-old who says, "I want to go sit on Santa's lap"? It's become a standard dilemma for Jewish parents every year now in modern 20th century America.
So what do you say to the 5-year-old?
You say no. And parents need to accept the fact that no is an okay thing to say to your kids. You say to your child, "No, don't run into the street," and they might resist that, but it's okay to say to a child, "No, we practice a different faith. Sitting on Santa Claus's lap is not a part of our faith." But that's not all that a Jewish parent can do, and it's unfair if that's all that a Jewish parent does. And so what has to be behind that no is the celebration of Hanukkah. And so we don't you say to your child, "We don't celebrate Christmas, we're Jewish, we celebrate Hanukkah." And then go home and celebrate Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And not stop there either, and reinforce throughout the rest of the year the fact that a family is Jewish, with celebration of other Jewish festivals and rituals throughout the year.
So you're offering a substitute for what the culture is providing at that point.
And what we're doing is building up the Jewish identity of the child and showing them how the advantages and how being Jewish can be an important part of their lives.
I can see Christian parents also saying to children, you don't want to sit in Santa's lap, because that's that's not really representing what the heart of our season is about anyway, when Santa becomes a secular symbol of just kind of a massive giveaway program. But that's left to each family to work it out on their own. Let me take note of the fact that Hanukkah in 1995 may very well be celebrated with a different sense than in most years with the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. And I know that you have been, within last days, leading in memorial services here in Austin for him. Give us a little bit of a reflection on how that trauma in Israel may affect the observance of Hanukkah here.
It's going to be the first festival of the Jewish year that we will celebrate following the tragic death and tragic and unnecessary death of slaying. We shouldn't say death, it was a slaying of Prime Minister Rabin. And as Jews gather together, it would be hard to believe that it wouldn't be on people's minds. What I think about is the first time that Yitzhak Rabin came to international prominence was in association with the Six-Day War back in 1967, close to 30 years ago, when, somewhat similar to Hanukkah, a small army of the Israelites, just as the Maccabees, went up against, were far, far, far outnumbered by their foe, by their enemy. And the Israeli army of 67 was victorious against the combined armies of 5 Arab states. And at the center of that victory was Yitzhak Rabin, perhaps the Judah Maccabee of 1967. So perhaps some parallels will be made. As we're thinking about it now, maybe most of a sermon is being written even as we speak. I think there will be reflection on the themes of Hanukkah and the themes of our present day quest for peace.
Yeah, I would think that it would be difficult not to reflect upon that under these circumstances. And as you were already leading Jewish worshipers here, you've begun to speak in those terms, I'm sure. And what's been your perception of how people locally have responded to that? I mean, we see on the news media around the world, and Israel, world leaders, Rabin's granddaughter who spoke so eloquently and movingly about the personal relationship. What have been some of the responses that continue to be brought to you that are memorable?
There's sadness in the community. There is, and a big question mark, a big blank about the future that everyone wants to see answered today, rather than wait to see how the process is going to continue. Everybody wants to know for sure. We all want to be reassured that despite Rabin's absence, the peace process will continue. And my response is that I have some confidence that it will. That the Jewish people throughout history, unfortunately, we have had the experience of tragedy and response to tragedy, perhaps a little bit more often than we would like. But in that experience, we have we can look back to that experience and know that we have the strength to overcome this, and that despite the tragedy, the ideals that he stood for and that he fought for and that he overcame his discomfort for. I mean, we all remember the look on his face when he shook hands with Arafat on the White House at the White House a few years ago. But it was specifically because of that he was a soldier that fought so hard against the Palestinians and the Arabs, that he could be trusted with the peace process.
Right. Well, I think it's just probably couldn't be a more appropriate time to be celebrating Hanukkah in the wake of that, as these feelings are still very much on the surface. And as you have the grief, inevitable reaction of loss and of wonderment about what this might lead to, and at the same time, the reinforcement of those centuries-old tradition of a purpose that worked itself out even in the midst of loss and suffering and death. And so I think that could give, in any given household, if they would want to use Hanukkah as the expression for letting feelings come out and hope affirmed, wouldn't you say that that's the kind of direction that might be offered in addition to the usual just lighting of the candles?
I always would encourage members of my congregation and my community to bring modern thoughts and ideas, even current up-to-the-minute ones, into celebration. The rituals of our tradition at any time during the year make it easy for us to bring in the thoughts that are in our minds and our hearts at that moment. And then they become linked inexorably with the festival for that year.
That makes it a living faith insofar as people can see that connection and feel it and be creative in making connections with what's gone a long time ago into the here and now.
We like to think that that's been the strength and the endurance of Judaism for so long. When other civilizations, when other religions have come and gone, we have 5,000 years of history. There's a mystery and an energy to that cannot be denied.
Yes, I think that we in the Christian faith tradition have as our greatest blessing that sharing that common story, and all faith traditions can appreciate what that means.
And we look forward to the time that Judaism is 10,000 years old and Christianity is 7,000 years old, and we have a world full of tolerance and goodwill.
Right. Well, we look forward to celebrating Hanukkah with you this year, Rabbi Pastor Hanakah. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
May you have many happy Hanukkahs in Austin.
I hope so.
Beyond this one. Thank you, folks, for watching. Be with us again next week on our next edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Richard Thompson, extending peace to each other.